Hello, Numi Nation. Welcome to the end of day for episode 7. So happy and honored to be here to close off another day of New Minds TV. Looks like I've got some of my team members already on and watching and joining me for this shutdown of the live portion of the day. But of course, the beautiful thing about New Minds TV is that over on newminds.tv, you can find all of the exciting action from the last week and a half at your fingertips for exploration. That includes on-demand replays of all your favorite videos, whether that's Steam sessions or activities from the vault with me or Mr. Justin. Maybe you want to travel around the world again with Mr. Walter. Maybe you're really digging that role play with Mr. Adam and want to replay again and again those explorations into narrative and character development. Maybe you're a parent and you were a little distracted one of the mornings, tuning in with Miss Kristen and getting kind of that deep dive and some of that life development stuff. And maybe late at night it's an opportunity to dig back into the Parent Power Hour with Miss Kristen and go a little deeper. Whatever it may be, we're so happy and pleased that we've been able to get this platform out there and together for you. And if you've tuned in to any of my, end of day closeouts so far, we're now on episode 7. Then you know that what I like to do is pull something really pragmatic out of the New Minds box and give it to you as parents in particular, and to help you work through this particular moment in history, which is a strange one, right? Anyone else feel like they're in the Twilight Zone? Or that you woke up in a strange apocalyptic movie? It does feel like that sometimes, right? But then again, like, here we are, right? Here we are breathing. Here we are surviving and adapting. It's pretty wild stuff. And so there are no doubt so many challenges involved in this situation. But at the same time, one thing that we keep trying to emphasize at New Minds is that silver lining, right? That silver lining that this opportunity might present for us if we can keep our composure enough to take advantage of it. Of course, needs are needs and survival is survival, and you got to do what you got to do. But for the most part, most of us are more safe than we think. We're in our homes. We do have enough to eat. We do have all the toilet paper we really need. And we're here with our families and kids in a more intimate way than we have been in a long time, maybe since family vacation, since everyone got in the car and drove to the Grand Canyon or wherever it might have been, right? So here we are. So that's what I want to do. That's why what I'm doing for these end of day sessions is I'm digging back into workshops and things that I've delivered or that New Minds has delivered over the past several years that contain nuggets that, wow, seem especially relevant right now. So what I'm going to do today, we're about to flip screens. I'm going to show you a little presentation. Let me get it kind of ready over here before I flip you over. Who else we got? We got Miss Janet has joined us. Hello, Janet, Kristen, Shay, and Justin are all on. And I know a lot of parents come back and watch this later. Like I said, 5 p.m. might not be the most calm moment. You're kind of wrapping up your day, maybe your day of homeschooling. It might not be the ideal situation to watch me live, but that's totally okay. That's why these are recorded for posterity. Okay, so I'm going to switch us over here to the view so you can still see me, but you're also going to see a little presentation here. Now, we're not going to go through the whole thing today, but this was coming to me today. Sometimes in the morning I'll sit and think, and I'll look at parent comments and even look at the memes going around from parents about the situation. And it'll come to me like, what might be a useful, pragmatic thing to address, or a little tool I can give the parents this afternoon. And today, this just felt right. So this is a presentation that we've given in different forms over the years. And this is about finding your passion and finding your child's passion and your own, by the way. There's kind of like a double edge to this. So we can think and talk about it either way. But the way I'm going to frame it today is this situation we're in, this might be the first time. Honestly, folks, it might be the only time that you're in such an intimate, close quarters environment with your family for such an extended period. I'm sure you've thought about the math in this, but normally your kids spend more time with their teachers than they do with you on a given day, right? Weekends are busy shuffling from here to there. Evenings are busy, shuffling from here to there. And so, wow, here is that silver lining I was talking about. Yes, it's hard. Yes, some of you are probably pulling your hair out. Some of you probably have a newfound respect for teachers, right? But here you are with an opportunity to really get to know your kid on a different level. And this is where the element comes in. And so New Minds has always been a huge fan of a thinker named Sir Ken Robinson. And he has this concept called the element. Okay. By the way, there is an extensive handout that goes with this. You have the URL here. I hope you can see it on the screen. Oops. Sorry, jumped a little bit there. It's newmindsenrichment.com/element, just in case it's not showing completely on the screen there. And feel free, if you're watching the playback of this on demand, pause it right now. I recommend pause the video right now. Go to that URL and pull up that handout. It's going to be really useful, very useful deep dive later if you really want to get into this concept. Okay, so what is the element? So the element is this concept that human beings thrive. They're at their best, they're at their happiest when they're at that intersection between their passions, something they're passionate about, and something that they're talented in. But sounds really simple, right? Sounds really straightforward, but it's not. It actually takes a lot of work. There's a lot of undoing to do. There's a lot of unbusyness to figure out because you really have to listen to yourself. But right now, in terms of your child, you really have to pay attention to what are those innate talents and passions that might be there to nurture. We're stuck in so many scripts, right? About what success looks like, about what career paths, about, what's the script about how education works. Your child goes to a respectable high school, so then they need to go to a college within this track. They need to study, something within one of these fields, right? We're stuck on these ideas, but the hard truth is that these passions come in many forms. And I think, if nothing else, this moment in time should highlight just how important it is to be in tune with who you really are so that you can adapt, really. So let's look at, I love this concept. I love it so much that on the side, I'm developing an app that has to do with developing and nurturing your own ikigai. So ikigai is this concept from Japanese philosophy. And essentially it translates roughly to a reason for being. The idea here is that all of us, every human being has kind of a reason that we exist for. And one of our jobs in life is to find out what that is and move towards it. So if you heard me talk last week about perfection versus excellence, this is a classic case of it's a journey, right? It's not that okay, I'm at my ikigai, I'm done. Whew, I can retire. It's more like it's a lifelong journey. That's your compass, that's your North Pole. That is what you're headed toward. But you can't head towards it if you haven't identified it. So there's this process where you have to take a close look at, all right, what am I good at? What do I truly and sincerely love to do? But more than just that, Ikigai takes it a little bit further than Ken Robinson. What does the world need? What does the world really need right now that intersects with those? And then finally, parents, don't panic. Don't panic, because a huge component of Ikigai is, what can you be paid for? If you have a love for it, you're really good at it, and it's something the world needs, then here's how it's described. That would be this. If you can see my cursor, that would be this particular. Maybe I have cursor off. But if you can, that would be this kind of light brown tan segment right here. It's delight and fullness, but no wealth. So that's more like a hobby, right? And for some people, maybe that is the point. Find a fulfilling hobby that goes on top of whatever your life career is. That's fine. But the point of Ikigai is to find that next level, which is, wow, I'm so immersed. I'm so in flow. I'm so in tune with this thing that I love. It's something that the world needs. I'm darn good at it. And guess what? I figured out a way to get paid for it. So how many entrepreneurs have you read about or heard about who have found their own way? Almost, it seems like through brute force, but really they were kind of in a flow state. They were guided by that Ikigai. And so that's why the pieces kind of clicked together, because they refused to take no for an answer. And they were not following those old scripts that we're kind of locked into. Okay, so let's start tying this into your kid. First, we have to take a really morbid turn to contrast why this is so important. Okay, so these are some stats that I pulled from the CDC data, and you can see The bottom axis is the years, and deaths per 100,000 people by these forms of death, right? You can see that beginning in about 2000, roughly, almost all of these categories, including drugs, alcohol, suicide, and what they call deaths of despair. Man, if that's not morbid, I don't know what is. All increase, some of them pretty exponentially. Like, look at, this doesn't take us into 2020, but you can see this trend just continues. Now, I'm making an indirect inference here that there's something wrong. The busier we're getting, the more, quote, connected we're getting on technology, is having some kind of counter effect here. My argument is that we're not paying close enough attention to like these basic aspects of what really makes us fulfilled and happy. That, parents, friends, is the bottom line of why the ikigai, of why your element is so important. You have to find your way. You have to find your way so you don't take the dark turn towards this, right? So, all right, time to get cheery now. So here's where Ken Robinson comes in. So Ken Robinson, from England, from Liverpool, to be precise. He was a professor in the U.S. He's kind of evolved quite a bit now. He has his own organization and institute that focuses on creativity and school reform and some things. But here's his definition. It's really simple. The element is the point at which natural talent meets personal passion. When people arrive at the element, they feel most themselves, most inspired, and achieve at their highest levels. Whoa. Is there anything on that list that you don't want for your child? Let's see. They feel most themselves. Wow. They're comfortable in their own skin. They're authentic. They're inspired, and they achieve at their highest levels. That's the danger here, is when we start to talk about these concepts, is like you just write it off as like the feel-good stuff. It's not, folks. This is not feel-good stuff. This is extremely pragmatic. This is about success and fulfillment, including financial success, by the way. So that's what I want to emphasize, is don't kind of write this off as like, Mr. Ben's end-of-day feel-good fluff. This is like some serious stuff. Like this, having worked with kids and adults more and more, but having worked with kids for more than 2 decades, I can tell you, the more you nurture these things that they're naturally curious about, passionate about, where you can find that spark of talent and develop it, you're going to have a happier, more successful kid. Okay. So why does this even matter for kids? Ken Robinson says that we all have this innate spark, but there's certain things that kind of limit us. Let's get a little bit more specific. So, all right. So here we are. I'm not bad talking school. I was a public school teacher for many, many years. I grew up in public school. It did me well, right? I believe in it really firmly. But at the same time, our traditional school system these days around the world are, modeled after the last century, and they're not up to date. So instead of encouraging our kids to find and nurture their element or their ikigai, what we're finding is schools tend to counteract the quest for ikigai. Okay. For example, we know that certain types of academic ability are prized over others. It just so happens that most standardized tests are measuring adeptness in, vocabulary or word smarts and quantitative reasoning or math smarts, right? Now, if your child happens to excel in one of those areas, they're probably fine. They're probably going to get identified and found and nurtured and get the right coaching and tutoring they need to kind of like excel in one of those traditional careers that are prized right now. We know that STEM and STEAM are really hot right now. The STEM subjects are still trending really hard. And so if you are talented in science or tech or engineering or math, you have a kind of a fast track. What about those kids, however, whose passion, whose talent falls outside of that kind of narrow range of STEM in this particular moment, that falls outside of that range of quantitative reasoning or verbal reasoning? Are they getting acknowledged and getting the opportunity to thrive? Are they getting nurtured with the right coaching and mentoring? In some cases, yes, but we have to look a little bit harder for that. So school systems have this hierarchy in place that sort of like are writing this script for us. And so what happens is we internalize that script, and then we tend to write off our own kind of curiosities and passions if they fall outside of that, right? So like a kid is super passionate about archery. Where does that fit in school? They're a gifted archer. How does that get nurtured and accelerated? They're absolutely obsessed with animation. Where does that fit? When funding starts to become an issue, what are some of the first programs that begin to get cut? Right? It's arts and music and things like that. So what if that's our wheelhouse? What if our passion is in the arts or music? Then we're getting this implicit message from the system that it's not as important, it's not as valuable, right? So that's why this is important. That's why this came to me for today, because we're in this strange moment where none of our kids are inside the traditional system right now. For just a pause, their education is taking place outside of this superstructure. And as parents, you have an interesting opportunity to sort of observe. Okay, maybe you had this idea about your kid, like, man, he's really good at math. I really see him studying engineering, right? It's one of those, man, med school. I've got med school on the slate for him or her, right? There's nothing wrong with having aspirations for your kid, but what I'm suggesting is take a deep look during this time that you have your kid there with you, and ask yourself, what other sort of elements are there? What other passions and curiosities just might be there to nurture? Just curious what you might find, okay? We're going to skip this part, a fun little case study. But here's really the crux of the matter that I think can't be better illustrated than it is right now by the crisis. And that is, it's extremely practical, because here's Kid Robinson's, a big part of his thesis is this, that when you are in touch with your element, when you're comfortable in your own skin, when you're authentic, when you know how to thrive and how to be fulfilled and how to be happy, you're adaptable. You know how to adapt to shifting situations, right? And so all of a sudden, it seems like in the snap of a finger, we had the rug pulled out from under us. I don't think we really imagined it was going to hit like this in this particular way, or throw us for such a complete loop. And it's interesting to watch how different types of people react, and see how adaptable and transferable certain skills are in this brand new environment. And this, obviously people are adapting and learning, companies are adapting, but ask yourself, like, this is just one example of a topsy-turvy moment. In the next, as change gets even more accelerated, as the world population grows even more quickly, how many more loops like this are going to get thrown at us where our ability to adapt is tested? Those of us who know how to adapt are the ones who are going to thrive in the long term. Okay, and so I always like to show this. So this is the site you may want to check out. It's called willrobotstakemyjob.com. Okay, and what they do is based on the latest research. Of course, it's not a perfect prediction, but what they do is based on the latest research. You type in a profession or a sub-profession, and they'll tell you the probability that job will be taken over by robots, by AI, by machine learning, by some form of technology. And it's interesting, all these traditional ideas we have about what careers would be safe, what are the, quote, respected careers. Please don't count on that, parents. You need to think beyond those hard skills. No one is denying that hard skills are important, but you need to think a lot more about the ability to adapt. Okay? Accountants, please do not send your kids on a fast track to accounting school. Unless it's a special case, right? If you own an accounting firm and your child's going to take it over and it's a sure thing, by all means. But if that's just kind of out there as the options, look at supplementing or complementing that with something else. Now, we used to think computer programming was like, that's a go-to profession for the future. It's true, we need programmers. But guess what? About 50% of programming jobs are going to be taken over by robots. Java, Python, all that stuff is fantastic. And those are the apps that are changing the worldscape today. But, machines can learn Java pretty quickly and can code faster than us. Now, we still need the humans to manage teams and to write up the specs that the machines are going to program. But in terms of programming itself as a hard skill, you got to look way beyond. You got to look at the power of problem solving, of adaptation. So, for better or for worse, lawyers are pretty safe. We're not going to see any robot lawyers anytime soon, according to this site. Optometrists are pretty safe. And hey, look at this. Secondary school teachers. In case you can't see it, that's 0.8% chance of being taken over by robots. So our teachers in general are still going to be safe. You know, teaching is going to transform as we're seeing right now as we speak, right? It's going to move online. It's going to move to different formats, but we still need those valuable, creative, artistic humans that we call teachers to deliver and to educate the next generations. Okay. So I'm going to stop there today. That was just part one, right? The next step is finding your element. So this is like, okay, what are the steps? I'm here with my child. I'm here with myself. Okay. All right, Ben, fine. I get it. It's not just feel good stuff. It's super important. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? That's what part two of this presentation is. But if you're interested, we need to hear from you. So we don't want to exist in a vacuum here. So like I said, I'm just pulling practical, pragmatic things out each afternoon that I think have good takeaways for you. But send us that feedback. Send us those notes about what you really want to hear. If you want a deep dive into one tool from this section, let me know. Let us know, and we can do that. By all means, that could be tomorrow afternoon session. Okay? So here's our sign off if you haven't noticed yet. It's pretty exciting. Thank you for tuning in to New Minds TV, home of real inspired learning for all. Remember, parents and students, to pursue your passion until it becomes your talent, because that indeed is the formula, in this case, for finding your element. Okay, guys, thank you for tuning in. Navigating this new technology. I'm going to figure out the easiest way to fade us out. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you all tomorrow for episode 8.